I can't believe you would do this to me, Damien. At my father's funeral of all places. My voice trembles with rage and disbelief as I confront my husband, his shirt hastily buttoned and lipstick smeared on his collar. Damien's eyes widen in surprise before narrowing with contempt. Don't be so dramatic, Raven. It's not like you were ever enough for me anyway. His words cut deep, reopening wounds I thought had long since scarred over. I think back to when we first met, how his charm and promises of success had blinded me to the red flags. I was just a naive, struggling artist then, desperate for love and validation. I gave up everything for you, I choke out, my vision blurring with unshed tears. My art, my dreams, my self-respect, and for what? A loveless marriage and a lifetime of regret? Damien scoffs, his handsome face twisting into a sneer. You were always so pathetic, Raven, clinging to me like I was your last hope. Well, guess what? I never needed you. I only married you for your father's money and connections. The truth of his words hits me like a punch to the gut. I think of all the years I wasted trying to win his love and approval while he was busy building a life with someone else, someone younger, prettier, more talented. Who is she, Damien? The woman you were just fucking in the coat room? My voice is low and dangerous, barely recognizable to my own ears. He smirks, unashamed. Her name is Sasha. She's everything you're not, Raven. Young, passionate, with a real future in the art world, and she's pregnant with my child. I feel like I might be sick. The betrayal is too much, too raw. I think of my father, cold in his casket just feet away. He never approved of Damien, never thought he was good enough for me, and now with his last breath he was proven right. I want a divorce, I say firmly, my hands shaking as I reach for my phone. I'm done being your doormat, Damien. I'm done letting you destroy me. He laughs, cruel and mocking. You'll never be free of me, Raven. I own you body and soul. Without me, you're nothing. But as I press record on my phone, capturing his vicious words for all the world to hear, I feel a flicker of something long forgotten stir inside me. Something like hope, like defiance. You're wrong, Damien, I say calmly, my tears drying on my cheeks. I may have lost myself for a while, but I'm taking my life back, starting now. And with that, I turn and walk away, my head held high despite the curious stares and whispered gossip of the funeral guests. I don't know what the future holds, but one thing is certain. Raven Callaghan is done being shattered. It's time to pick up the pieces and create a new masterpiece from the ruins of my broken dreams. The sleek lines of Damien's penthouse mock me as I step inside, a cruel reminder of the gilded cage I now call home. The minimalist decor, once so chic and sophisticated, feels cold and sterile, like a museum display of my shattered dreams. Raven, darling, you're back, Damien calls from the living room, his voice dripping with false affection. How was the funeral? I clench my fists, the memory of his betrayal still fresh and stinging. Like you care, I mutter, kicking off my heels and padding into the room. He's sprawled on the leather sofa, a glass of scotch dangling from his fingertips. Of course I care, sweetheart. Alistair was like a father to me. I snort, the irony almost too much to bear. Really? Because last I checked, most people don't skip their father-in-law's funeral to screw their mistress in the coat room. Damien's eyes flash with annoyance, his mask of concern slipping. I thought we were past that little misunderstanding, Raven. I explained everything. Misunderstanding? I echo, my voice rising with incredulity. You called me pathetic, said you only married me for my father's money, and let's not forget the part where you got your barely legal side piece pregnant. He sets down his drink, his jaw clenching. Watch your tone, Raven. You're treading on thin ice. I laugh, the sound harsh and brittle. Or what, Damien? You'll leave me? Ruin my life? Newsflash, asshole, you already have. Just then, the front door slams, announcing the arrival of my least favorite person. Lilith, Damien's teenage daughter from his first marriage, saunters in, her heavily lined eyes narrowing as she spots me. Oh, look, the gold digger's back, she sneers, tossing her designer bag on the counter. Shouldn't you be out spending my inheritance on tacky art supplies? Yes, I bite back a retort, knowing it's useless to engage with her. Lilith has hated me from the moment I moved in, seeing me as a threat to her daddy's fortune and attention. Lilith, please, Damien chides, but there's no real rebuke in his tone. Raven is part of this family now. You need to show her some respect. Respect? Lilith scoffs, her heavily glossed lips curling in disdain. For what? Her amazing ability to spread her legs and trap men into marriage? The words hit me like a slap, the air rushing from my lungs. I turned to Damien, expecting him to defend me, to put his daughter in her place. But he just shrugs, reaching for his drink again. She's not wrong, Raven. You didn't exactly bring much to the table when we met. No money, no connections, just a pretty face and a decent pair of tits. I feel like I might be sick, the room spinning around me. Is this really what he thinks of me? Is this all I am to him, to everyone in this godforsaken family? I'm an artist, I whisper, my voice cracking. I have talent, I have dreams. Lilith rolls her eyes, her laughter cruel and mocking. Dreams? Wake up, Raven. You're nothing but a washed-up wannabe who got lucky, and now that Daddy's gone, your luck's about to run out. She flounces out of the room, her parting words hanging in the air like a noose. I turn to Damien, desperate for some shred of comfort, of reassurance, but he just shakes his head, his expression a mix of pity and contempt. She's right, you know. Without Alistair's money, we're screwed. The gallery's in the red, and your little art projects aren't exactly paying the bills. I feel like I'm suffocating, the walls of this beautiful, terrible apartment closing in on me. Is this really my life now? A loveless marriage, a resentful stepdaughter, a husband who sees me as nothing more than a meal ticket? I think back to the girl I used to be, the one who believed in love and art and the power of her own voice. She seems so far away now, a distant memory of a life I can never reclaim. But as I stand there, something inside me hardens, a small, fierce spark of defiance flickering to life. I may be trapped, I may be broken, but I'm not dead yet. And one way or another, I'm going to make them pay for what they've done to me. 5 years. That's how long it's been since I stood in front of the mirror, a shadow of the woman I used to be. My once vibrant eyes are dull, my skin pale and drawn. The paintbrushes that were once an extension of my soul now lie forgotten, gathering dust in the corner of my studio. I hear the front door slam, followed by the click of high heels on the marble floor. Lilith, now 21 and every bit as vicious as her father, enters the room, her lip curled in a sneer. Still moping around, I see, she taunts, her gaze sweeping over my paint-splattered sweatpants and messy bun. Don't you have anything better to do than wallow in self-pity? I don't bother to respond, knowing it will only fuel her cruelty. Lilith has made it her mission to torment me at every turn, blaming me for the family's financial struggles and her own miserable existence. You know, if you weren't such a useless leech, maybe Daddy wouldn't have to work so hard to keep us afloat, she continues, examining her perfectly manicured nails. But I guess that's what happens when you marry a talentless gold digger. I feel a flicker of anger, but it's quickly extinguished by the weight of my own despair. She's right, after all. What have I contributed to this family, to this life? Nothing but broken dreams and empty promises. The sound of the door opening again jolts me from my thoughts. Damien enters, his suit impeccable and his expression unreadable. He barely spares me a glance as he pours himself a drink, the amber liquid sloshing against the sides of the glass. Lilith, darling, I need to speak with Raven alone, he says, his tone calm but firm. Why don't you go shopping with your friends? Use the black card. Lilith's eyes light up, her earlier venom forgotten in the face of her father's generosity. She snatches the credit card from his outstretched hand and flounces out of the room, leaving me alone with the man I once thought I loved. Your father called, Damien says, taking a sip of his scotch. He wants to see you. I blink, surprised by the mention of Alistair. We haven't spoken in months, not since our last explosive argument about my life choices. What does he want? I ask, my voice hoarse from disuse. Damien shrugs, his gaze still fixed on the view outside the window. He didn't say, but he sounded different, like he was in pain. A flicker of hope ignites in my chest, a tiny ember in the ashes of my dreams. Could this be it? The chance I've been waiting for? The opportunity to escape this gilded hell and start anew. I'll go see him, I say, my resolve strengthening with each word. Maybe he's finally ready to listen, to understand. Damien scoffs, draining the last of his drink. Don't get your hopes up, Raven. Alistair Blackwood is a stubborn old bastard. He'll never change. But as I walk out of the penthouse, my head held high for the first time in years, I feel a sense of purpose, of determination. I may have lost myself along the way, but I'm not going to let them win. I'll see my father, hear what he has to say. And then, one way or another, I'll find a way to break free from this nightmare and reclaim the life I once had, even if it means burning everything to the ground and starting from scratch. The church is silent, save for the muffled sobs of the mourners and the soft rustling of tissues. I sit in the front pew, my eyes fixed on the polished wooden casket that holds my father's lifeless body. Alistair Blackwood, the man who was supposed to be my rock, my protector, is gone. I feel a hand on my shoulder and turn to see Damien, his face a mask of feigned sympathy. "I'm so sorry for your loss, darling," he murmurs, his voice like silk hiding a dagger. "Your father was a great man." I nod, too numb to speak. I think back to our last conversation, just days before his sudden death. He had hinted at a change in his will, a final act of love and redemption. But now I'll never know what he wanted to say, never have the chance to make things right between us. The service ends, and I stand on shaky legs, accepting condolences from strangers and distant relatives. Damien is nowhere to be seen, and a sinking feeling settles in my gut. I excuse myself and slip out of the church, my heels clicking on the stone steps. I hear voices coming from the coat room, and I freeze, my heart pounding in my chest. It's Damien, and he's not alone. I inch closer, my breath caught in my throat. "God, Sasha, you feel so good," he groans, and I hear the unmistakable sound of flesh on flesh. "I can't wait to leave that frigid bitch and start a new life with you." "What about the money?" a woman's voice asks, breathless and eager. "You said she was going to inherit everything." Damien laughs, the sound cruel and mocking. "Don't worry about that, baby. I have a plan. Once the will is read, I'll contest it, say that Raven manipulated the old man into cutting me out. She's got no proof, no witnesses. It'll be her word against mine." I feel like I might be sick, my stomach churning with rage and disgust. How could I have been so blind, so stupid? I trusted him, loved him, and all along he was plotting to use me and toss me aside. "And what about the kid?" Sasha asks, her voice tinged with worry. "You sure it's yours?" "Of course it's mine," Damien scoffs. "You think I'd let some other man touch what's mine?" "No, this is our ticket to the good life, Sasha, a new start, with Raven's money and my brains. We'll be unstoppable." I can't listen anymore, can't bear to hear another word of their sickening plan. I fumble for my phone, my hands shaking as I hit the record button. I need proof, need to expose Damien for the lying, cheating bastard he is. I step into the coat room, my head held high and my eyes blazing with fury. "Well, well, well," I say, my voice dripping with venom. "What do we have here?" Damien and Sasha spring apart, their faces flushed and their clothing disheveled. "Raven, I can explain," Damien stammers, his eyes wide with panic. "Oh, I think you've explained quite enough," I snarl, holding up my phone. "I heard everything, Damien, every disgusting, despicable word." Sasha blanches, her hand flying to her stomach. "You recorded us?" she whispers, her voice trembling. I nod, a cold smile spreading across my face. "Every single second. And now I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what a pathetic, conniving worm you really are, Damien Callaghan." I turn on my heel and storm out of the room, my heart pounding with a newfound sense of purpose. I may have lost my father, my marriage, and my self-respect, but I'll be damned if I let them take anything else from me. It's time to fight back, to take what's mine and burn the rest to the ground. And I won't stop until Damien and his little whore are nothing but ashes at my feet. The funeral guests stare at me in stunned silence as I march back into the church, my phone clutched in my hand like a smoking gun. Damien follows close behind, his face a mask of panic and fury. "Raven, please, let's talk about this in private," he hisses, reaching for my arm. I yank away from his grasp, my eyes blazing with a fire I thought had long since been extinguished. "Oh, we're going to talk, all right," I say, my voice ringing out clear and strong. "But not in private, not anymore." I turn to face the crowd, my heart pounding in my chest. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement to make. My husband, Damien Callaghan, is a liar, a cheat, and a thief." Gasps and murmurs ripple through the room, and I see Lilith's face turn pale with shock. Good. Let her see her precious daddy for the snake he really is. "I have proof," I continue, holding up my phone. "Recorded evidence of Damien's infidelity and his plans to contest my father's will and steal my inheritance." Damien lunges for the phone, but I'm too quick for him. I hit play and his voice fills the church, every damning word echoing off the high ceilings. You bitch, he snarls when the recording ends, his face twisted with rage. You think you can destroy me? I made you, Raven. Without me, you're nothing. I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. That's where you're wrong, Damien. I'm not nothing. I'm Raven fucking Blackwood, and I'm done being your doormat. I reach into my purse and pull out a thick envelope, tossing it at his feet. I've already spoken to my lawyer. My father changed his will before he died, leaving everything to me. And as for you, you're out on your ass, with nothing but the clothes on your back and the child support payments for your bastard kid. Damien's face drains of color, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You can't do this, he whispers, his voice trembling. I'll fight it. I'll take you for everything you're worth. I smile, cold and cruel. You can try, but I have the law on my side and a team of the best lawyers money can buy. You're finished, Damien. And as for you, Lilith? I turn to face my stepdaughter, my eyes narrowing. Don't even think about coming to me for help. You're just as bad as your father, and I'm done enabling your toxic behavior. You want money, get a job. You want love, earn it. But don't expect anything from me, ever again. Lilith's face crumples, tears streaming down her cheeks. Please, Raven, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it, any of it. I was just angry, jealous. Don't cut me off, I need you. I shake my head, my heart hardening to her crocodile tears. You need a reality check, Lilith, and I'm done being your punching bag. I have my own life to live, my own dreams to chase, and I won't let you or anyone else hold me back anymore. I turn to the stunned crowd, my head held high. Thank you all for coming to pay your respects to my father. But if you'll excuse me, I have a divorce to finalize and a new chapter to begin. I walk out of the church, my steps light and my heart soaring. For the first time in years, I feel alive, powerful, in control of my own destiny. Damien and Lilith can rot in the hell they've created for themselves. I have a legacy to claim and a life to rebuild, one brushstroke at a time, and nothing and no one is going to stand in my way. The gallery is buzzing with activity, the white walls lined with paintings that seem to vibrate with energy and emotion. I stand in the center of the room, a glass of champagne in my hand and a smile on my face. This is my moment, my triumph, and I'm going to savor every second of it. I see Damien across the room, his face haggard and his suit hanging off his frame. He looks like a man who's lost everything, and in a way, he has. I made sure of that. I saunter over to him, my heels clicking on the polished concrete floor. Damien, darling, so glad you could make it, I purr, my voice dripping with false sweetness. I know how busy you must be, what with the job hunt and all. He glares at me, his eyes bloodshot and his jaw clenched. You think you've won, don't you? He growls, his voice low and menacing. You think you can just destroy my life and walk away unscathed? I laugh, the sound bright and carefree. Oh, Damien, I don't think I've won. I know I have, and as for walking away unscathed, I'm not the one who's been blacklisted from every gallery in the city, am I? His face twists with rage, and for a moment I think he might actually hit me. But then a voice cuts through the tension, smooth and confident. Raven, darling, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. I turn to see Marcus, my new business partner and the owner of the most prestigious gallery in town. He's tall and handsome, with salt and pepper hair and a smile that could charm the pants off a nun. Marcus, so sorry to keep you waiting, I say, taking his arm and shooting Damien a triumphant look. I was just catching up with an old friend. Damien's eyes narrow, his fists clenching at his sides. Friend? Is that what you call the man who ruined your life? Marcus raises an eyebrow, his gaze flicking between us. Ruined her life? From where I'm standing, it looks like Raven's doing just fine. Better than fine, actually. Her show is a sensation, and the critics are calling her the next big thing in the art world. I smile, leaning into Marcus's side. What can I say? I had a lot of inspiration to draw from. Pain, betrayal, the depths of human cruelty. It's all there on the canvas for everyone to see. Damien scoffs, his face twitched with disgust. You're pathetic, Raven. Using our marriage, our private life, as fodder for your little art projects. Don't you have any shame? I step forward, my eyes blazing with fury. Shame? You want to talk about shame, Damien? How about the shame of being married to a man who cheated on me, lied to me, and tried to steal my inheritance? The shame of watching my stepdaughter spiral into addiction and despair because of your toxic influence? No, Damien, I have no shame. Not anymore. But you? You should be drowning in it. He opens his mouth to retort, but I cut him off with a wave of my hand. Save it. I'm done listening to your lies and excuses. I have a show to run and a life to live, and you have a one-way ticket to rock bottom. Enjoy the ride. I turn on my heel and walk away, Marcus at my side. I can feel Damien's eyes boring into my back, but I don't look back. I'm done looking back, done letting my past define me. I'm Raven Blackwood, artist, survivor, and queen of my own fucking destiny. And nothing, and no one, is going to stand in my way. As we mingle with the other guests, I catch sight of Lilith, her face gaunt and her eyes hollow. She's talking to a man in a cheap suit, and I can tell by the way she's fidgeting that she's jonesing for a fix. Part of me wants to go to her, to offer her help and support. But I know that's not what she needs. Not really. What she needs is to hit rock bottom, to face the consequences of her choices, and learn to stand on her own 2 feet. Just like I did. The applause is deafening as I take my final bow, the stage lights hot on my skin and the adrenaline pumping through my veins. I've done it. I've poured my heart and soul onto the canvas, and the world has embraced me with open arms. I step off the stage and into a sea of congratulations and well wishes, my cheeks aching from the constant smiling. But then I see a familiar figure pushing through the crowd, his face haggard and his eyes wild. Raven, please, I need to talk to you, Damien pleads, his voice hoarse and desperate. I've lost everything, my job, my home, my reputation. I have nothing left. I stare at him, my heart hardening to his pathetic display. And whose fault is that, Damien? You brought this on yourself with your lies and your cheating and your greed. He shakes his head, tears streaming down his face. I know. I was wrong, so wrong. But please, Raven, I'm begging you. Forgive me. Give me another chance. I'll do anything, be anything you want me to be. I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. Anything I want you to be? I wanted you to be a faithful husband, a loving partner, a decent human being. But you couldn't even manage that, could you? He falls to his knees, his hands clasped in front of him like a penitent sinner. I'm sorry, Raven. I'm so sorry. I was weak, selfish, stupid, but I've changed, I swear. I'll prove it to you, every day for the rest of our lives. Just give me one more chance, please. I look down at him, this man who once held my heart in his hands and crushed it without a second thought. And I feel nothing. No love, no hate, no pity. Just a cold, empty void where my feelings for him used to be. Get up, Damien, I say, my voice flat and emotionless. You're making a scene. He staggers to his feet, his face a mask of desperation and hope. And does that mean? I shake my head, a small, cruel smile playing at the corners of my mouth. It means I'm done with you, Damien, done with your lies, your manipulation, your endless cycle of betrayal and false remorse. I gave you chances, more than you ever deserved, and you threw them all away like the selfish, spineless worm you are. His face crumples, his shoulders sagging in defeat. Raven, please. I hold up a hand, cutting him off mid-sentence. No more, Damien. No more pleading. No more promises. No more second chances. You're dead to me, do you understand? Dead and buried, just like the love I once had for you. I turn to walk away, but he grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. You can't do this, Raven. You need me, just like I need you. We're meant to be together. Can't you see that? I yank my arm out of his grasp, my eyes flashing with fury. The only thing I see is a pathetic, delusional man who can't accept that his time is up. You had your chance, Damien. Multiple chances, and you blew them all. Now it's time to face the consequences of your actions. I walk away, my head held high and my heart light. I can hear him calling after me, his voice growing more and more desperate with each step I take. But I don't look back, don't falter in my stride. I'm done being a victim, done being a pawn in someone else's game. I'm the master of my own fate now, the captain of my own ship. And I'm sailing towards a future that's bright and bold and full of endless possibilities. As I step out into the cool night air, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. I faced my demons, confronted my past, and emerged stronger and wiser for it. I'm ready for whatever comes next, whatever challenges and triumphs lie ahead. Because I know that no matter what, I'll face them head on, with courage and grace and an unshakable belief in myself. I am Raven Blackwood, and I am unstoppable. The sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my new penthouse, casting a warm glow over the sleek, modern furniture and the vibrant paintings that adorn the walls. I stand on the balcony, a cup of coffee in my hand, and gaze out at the city skyline, a sense of peace and contentment washing over me. It's been 6 months since I walked away from Damien and Lilith, 6 months since I took back control of my life and my destiny, and in that time, I've accomplished more than I ever thought possible. My art has taken the world by storm, with collectors and critics alike hailing me as a visionary, a force to be reckoned with. I've sold pieces to museums and galleries around the globe, and my bank account has never looked healthier. But it's not just about the money or the fame. It's about the sense of purpose, the feeling of fulfillment that comes from knowing I'm making a difference in the world. I've started a foundation using my wealth and influence to support young artists from disadvantaged backgrounds. I mentor them, guide them, help them navigate the treacherous waters of the art world. And every time I see one of them succeed, every time I watch them take the stage and bask in the applause, I feel a rush of pride and joy that's unlike anything I've ever experienced. But even as I revel in my newfound success, I can't help but feel a twinge of emptiness, a sense that something is missing. And I know exactly what, or rather who, it is. Lilith. I haven't spoken to her since that fateful night at the gallery, haven't seen her since she stumbled out of the building, high and desperate and lost. But I've kept tabs on her, watched from afar as she spiraled deeper and deeper into addiction and despair. Part of me wants to reach out, to offer her the same support and guidance I give to my young protégés. But another part of me, the part that still bears the scars of her cruelty and betrayal, hesitates. And then, one day, I receive a letter. It's from Lilith, written from a rehab facility in Arizona. She tells me she's sorry, that she's been working on herself, trying to make amends for all the pain she's caused. She asks for my forgiveness, my help in rebuilding her life. And as I read her words, I feel a stirring in my heart, a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, there's still a chance for redemption. I write back, cautiously at first, then with growing warmth and affection. We exchange letters, then phone calls, then visits. And slowly but surely I watch as Lilith transforms before my eyes, shedding the layers of anger and bitterness and emerging as a new woman, strong and resilient and full of promise. Together we work to build a new life for her, one based on honesty and trust and mutual respect. I help her find a job, a place to live, a network of supportive friends and mentors. And as I watch her flourish, I feel a sense of pride and accomplishment that rivals even my greatest artistic triumphs. But even as Lilith and I mend our broken relationship, I know that there's one loose end left to tie up. One final piece of the puzzle that needs to fall into place. Damien. I've avoided him for months, refusing his calls and emails and desperate pleas for forgiveness. But I know that I can't run forever, can't hide from the truth of what he did and who he is, and so I agree to meet with him, one last time. We sit across from each other in a quiet coffee shop, two strangers who once shared a life and a love. He looks older, thinner, his eyes haunted by the weight of his mistakes. And as he speaks, as he pours out his heart and his soul, I feel a flicker of something that might be pity, might be understanding, but I also feel a sense of closure, a sense that this chapter of my life is finally coming to an end. And as I walk away from him, as I step out into the bright, bustling streets of the city, I know that I'm ready for whatever comes next. Because I am Raven Blackwood, artist, survivor, and master of my own destiny, and nothing and no one can ever take that away from me.
Currently, we're at my husband's boss's wedding. The celebration is full swing, and my husband's had a bit too much to drink. When his boss mentioned his bride's homemaking skills, my husband said, "My wife can't cook, and she never cleans up." I couldn't believe he'd make fun of me like that, especially with me right there. I shot back, "Should you really be critiquing your wife's housekeeping skills when you're lying about business trips to stay at your mistress's place?" He looked totally shocked, and his boss just gave a confused, "Huh?" This is just the tip of the iceberg for my revenge. I'm Vicky, 32 years old. I am a freelance certified public accountant and work remotely from home. My job as a CPA involves managing financial information, producing reports, and auditing. In simpler terms, I'm self-employed and provide financial services to my clients. I married my now husband, an office worker, 3 years ago after a friend introduced us. I was instantly attracted to his outgoing and friendly nature. It wasn't like me, but I went out of my way to get his attention. Fast forward, and 2 years ago, we welcomed our daughter, Amy, into our lives. While I'd love to say everything's been a fairy tale, since getting married, I've noticed Arthur tends to slack once he feels he's secured something. He does his job, pays his bills, and isn't aggressive or mean. But he doesn't lift a finger at home, dumping all domestic and childcare duties on me, claiming, "That's a woman's job, right? I'm working hard out there, so quit nagging." What century is he from? I'm not asking for him to take over everything, just some support when I'm swamped. He assumes my days are a breeze. He thinks I'm lounging around, working when I feel like it. He even once quipped about my setup. "It must be sweet staying at home all day. I've got piles of work, a boss to please, and clients to deal with. You wouldn't get it." Even though I'm at home, he expects me to handle all the chores. I fired back. "Hold on a sec. I am working from home. Juggling that with Amy is not easy." He responded, "Really? Looks to me like you're just goofing off on the computer. Wish I could work from home and take it easy without anyone seeing." He said it with a smile. I don't think he meant any harm, but it did irk me how he downplayed my work. On the bright side, he occasionally takes Amy to the park, and they play together sometimes on weekends. He always makes it a point to be home for special days like birthdays or Christmas, showering Amy and me with gifts. We've had our share of good times. That's why I've been keeping my frustrations to myself. I mean, maybe this is just how relationships are. No one's perfect, and compromise is part of the deal. I don't want to split from him. I take pride in how efficiently I juggle my remote job, house chores, and taking care of Amy. We had a system that kind of worked. But recently, his behavior has been off. He used to be a homebody on weekends, either buried in his comics or playing games. Lately, he's rarely home, often saying, "I'm heading out. Don't bother with dinner for me," before heading out the door. He doesn't just disappear from home on weekends. He's also often working overtime during the week. Sometimes, he even says he has to pull an all-nighter at work and then returns the next morning. It's strange that it happens so often throughout the month instead of just once or twice. This got me worried, so I confronted him about it one day. "Hey, it feels like you've been coming back home in the mornings a lot. Plus, you're always gone on weekends. How about we spend some quality time together as a family?" But his response was harsh. "How can you give your husband grief when he's busting his butt for this family? I'm killing myself out here working for us." He gave me a fierce look. But being the kind of person I am, I didn't look away. "So, where are you always heading off to? At least tell me that. I'm not telling you to stay home. I just want to be in the loop." "I've been hanging out at my boss, Carlos's house. His fiancée loves hosting parties all the time, and since I report to him, I get invited a lot." I'm familiar with Carlos. We've met. I've even attended one of his extravagant house parties. Carlos's fiancée, Sarah, was a model back in the day and is drop-dead gorgeous. Word is they're living together and planning to get married. Sarah's my age, 32, but she could pass for someone in her early 20s. She's got fair, almost glowing skin and large eyes, rosy lips and vibrant apple-colored cheeks. She's slender with a graceful frame. Even seeing her as another woman, I had to admit she was a knockout. But personality-wise, she left a lot to be desired. Sarah, I remember the first time I went to their house party and she walked up to me. That's a memory I wish I could shake, but can't. "You're Vicky, right? Heard your cooking isn't that great," Sarah remarked with a sly smile. Her comment caught me off guard and I responded, "Who told you that?" "Arthur was venting about it. Said he dressed dinner time because of the bad food." Her words left me reeling. The idea of Arthur bad-mouthing me to others was inconceivable. She went on, "It's okay, you know. Everyone's got something they're not great at. And just because you think your meals are tasty doesn't mean your husband agrees. Guess you'll have to step up your cooking game." On the face of it, you'd think she was trying to be supportive, but she had this laugh, like she was getting a kick out of it. What a mean lady, I thought. Who directly shares a husband's gripes with his wife? Carlos really picked a winner with her, I mumbled sarcastically to myself. Another thought crossed my mind, though. Even if they were tight, would Arthur really talk about our home life to his boss's fiancée? I was about to get answers to my doubts in the worst way imaginable. It all unraveled on Amy's second birthday. I was hustling to get the room ready and the cake set up. I decided to throw a birthday bash in our large living room to make it special. Amy was taking a nap in her bedroom. The plan was to surprise her when she woke up. Arthur was pitching in, especially with the high-up decorations. But then his phone rang. He glanced at the number and seemed to hesitate. Intrigued, I probed. "What's up? If it's a call, just answer it here." "No, it's work. I'd rather not mix business with family time. There might be sensitive info." With that, he exited the room. He was gone for a good half hour, deeply engrossed in his chat. When he finally came back, he looked really shaken. Out of nowhere, he raised his voice at me. "I got called into work. I'm heading to the office now." Out of nowhere, I was caught off guard and tried to hold him back. "Hold on, are you really going to work now? Today is Amy's birthday." He brushed past me, giving me a frustrated look. "Get the picture. There are bigger things at play here. Don't hold me up." With that, he bolted out the door. I was stunned by his abrupt reaction. His words kept replaying in my mind. How could he downplay our precious Amy's birthday like that? Why would he be so thoughtless? He told me he took the day off for this. What work emergency could be more pressing than Amy's day? I decided to peek in on the sleeping girl. She looked so serene. It would break her heart to learn her dad missed her birthday when she wakes up. Not knowing how to process everything, my mind was spinning, but then it hit me. I checked something in the kids' room and was horrified by my find. Anger welled up inside me. So that's what's been happening. That's the real reason he dashed out. I won't forgive him for this. The next day, Arthur came home like nothing happened. Flashing a grin, he said, "Sorry about yesterday." I replied with a smile, "It's all right." But inside, I was plotting my next move. After a while, he filled me in about Carlos and Sarah's upcoming wedding. Turns out, she was expecting, so they sped up their wedding plans. We got an invite, and I had my own plans for their big day. Everything was going off without a hitch at the wedding. Arthur was living it up, sipping enough to get rosy cheeks. As I nibbled my food, I kept an eye on him. Just then, the couple of the hour, Carlos and Sarah, walked over. Sarah, in her stunning wedding gown, turned heads left and right. All the men there couldn't get their eyes off the princess. Smiling wide, Arthur patted Carlos on the back. "Carlos, congrats!" Then he asked Carlos, "What's your favorite thing about Sarah?" A bit shy, he answered, "Her cooking, I think." Chuckling, he added, "That's totally not like my wife. She struggles with house stuff. Bad cook, not the best cleaner. Wish she could pick up a few tips from Sarah." It was pretty gutsy of him to diss his wife with her right there. Sarah let out a laugh at his comment, while Carlos smirked and said, "You shouldn't talk bad about your wife like that," he cautioned Arthur. Seeing my moment, I jumped in. "Bad cooking and cleaning? How would you know? When you're always out on fake business trip, sneaking off to your mistress's place." Both Sarah and Arthur looked surprised at my words, while Carlos blurted out a confused, "What?" Pushing forward, I said to him, "Carlos, you were out of the country for a month recently, right?" Oddly enough, my husband was gone at the same time. Are you connecting the dots? At first baffled, realization dawned on his face. "Wait, what are you hinting at?" he asked, his voice shaking a bit. Keeping my cool, I spelled it out. "It's pretty simple. Arthur was at your place the whole time, just him and Sarah." Carlos's eyes widened in shock, darting between Arthur and Sarah. My husband seemed rattled, and Sarah shot me a piercing look, biting her lip. "Really? Don't throw around baseless claims. I'll take you to court for slander." Boosted by Sarah's feisty response, Arthur also began to berate me. "Exactly. You think you can frame me like this? Just because you got wind of some gossip, you're pulling this ugly trick? That's low. Say you're sorry to me and Sarah, now." I let their outburst roll off me, pulling out my phone and hitting play on a video. Loud and clear, the footage displayed my husband in our kids' room on a call with Sarah. "Sarah, you're expecting? Whose baby is it? Wait, mine?" His flustered voice followed. Carlos's expression tightened, signaling a game-changing moment. The video kept rolling. "I was with you the whole month Carlos was traveling. What should we do? Neither of us wants to split from our partners, right?" And then the kicker. "Okay, we'll fast-track the wedding, and the kid will be known as Carlos's. Best that way. If my wife finds out, it'll be a nightmare. Just keep it between us. We gotta figure out as soon as possible." The clip wrapped up. Since I played it so loudly, everyone around us was all ears, setting a scene abuzz. A nanny cam in the little one's room had caught the whole thing. I got it because our toddler, Amy, is a little firecracker and prone to getting into mischief. I kept quiet about the camera, anticipating Arthur would grumble, going, "Total waste of cash. We don't need it." So, clueless about the camera, he chose the kids' room for the risky call with Sarah. What followed was sheer pandemonium, with Carlos absolutely fuming. "Sarah, what is this about? You said it was my baby. Were you playing me all along? And you, Arthur, after everything I've done for you, You chased my fiancé? Sarah started crying. I'm so sorry. I lost myself. Please, just calm down. Arthur scrambled for words. I can't apologize enough. Hear me out. There's a reason behind it. The scene was bedlam. Needless to say, the wedding was off. We'll hash this out later, Carlos muttered to me, lowering his gaze. With eyes blazing, Carlos escorted a weeping Sarah out, followed by both of their families. She was in for a storm from both sides. What remained was a mix of bewildered guests, me, and shell-shocked Arthur. You planning on hanging around like a statue? I said, and he snapped. What did you just unleash, making a scene like that? Crying foul? All because you hooked up with your boss's girl and she's expecting, no less. Stumped by my response, he glanced downward, then hit me with puppy dog eyes. You're not thinking about a divorce, are you? With all the dust settled, you've gotta feel better. Amy needs both her parents. Sarah and I are done. We get a redo, right? More than ire, I was taken aback by his brazen plea. Did he honestly think we could just hit the reset button after all of that? The real reason he doesn't want to split is because Carlos is onto him about the affair. From the get-go, Arthur hasn't been making a lot of money, and after this mess, his job's probably on the line. If I go after him for alimony, his life's definitely taking a nosedive. That's his main reason for dodging a divorce. How self-absorbed is that? I let him have it. Cut the crap! We're getting divorced. There's no walking this back. I'll be coming for compensation from both you and Sarah. Plus, I want child support. Get ready. Hearing this, he just lost it, tears and all. Please, don't go there. I'm really begging you here. My pay isn't great, and I swear I'm done straying. I'll do whatever you say from here out. I seriously messed up. Just think about the divorce. Why would I believe a word from you? You even spaced on Amy's birthday. A loser like you around isn't good for my daughter. Just steer clear of us. Please. I brushed off his last-ditch efforts and split from the place alone. Down the line, Arthur and I went our separate ways, and Carlos and Sarah called off their wedding. I got compensation and child support out of Arthur, and naturally a chunk from Sarah too. He had to bow out of his job, given the whole boss's fiancé turned baby mama situation. They ended up in debt, shelling out for Carlos's demands. Word is, Arthur and Sarah got married because of the baby, but they're living in the red, dodging bill collectors. Frankly, I'm unfazed hearing about it. They reaped what they sowed. As for me, I got custody of Amy and headed back to my folks' place. Amy's been the apple of her grandparents' eyes, and she's thriving. I've been living peacefully, shaking off all the Arthur drama. Going it alone with Amy, I'm all about keeping it positive.
Hey, where are you? I asked my husband, who replied with a surprising statement. I'm on a trip with my folks. What? It's our daughter's birthday. What are you, crazy? Being a good son is more important, you know. I see. In that case, let me do what I want as well. I hung up the phone and got to work immediately. Hey, what's this about? He was frantic. It was his own doing. I wanted him to suffer. I'm Paige, a 34-year-old social worker. I've been married to Cooper for 8 years now. We were originally co-workers in the same office. He was one of my bosses and even served as my mentor, so we naturally grew close. We started seeing each other outside of work and got married after about a year. Our newlywed life was filled with love and happiness. It wasn't without its problems, though. The main issue was my in-laws. His parents wanted us to move in with them right after we got married, using their old age as an excuse. I adamantly refused, or rather, despised the idea with all my heart. I wanted to spend the first few years alone with Cooper, and there were other reasons as well. One of them was that I had an apartment of my own. My father is into real estate investment and owns several properties. When I got engaged, he gave me one of them as a wedding gift. It was built only 3 years ago, and it was fairly new, spacious, and very comfortable to live in. It was perfect for us as a couple, and there was plenty of space even if we had kids. So I had only thought about living there after marriage. I firmly expressed my opinion to Cooper. He was caught between his parents and me, but eventually he sided with me. When starting married life, my wife comes first, obviously. I also want to enjoy being just the two of us, so they should respect our wishes. I was happy when he was on board. From then on, my in-laws started making snide remarks to me whenever we met. You just don't want to live with old people like us, do you? You probably think we'd be a bother. What a heartless daughter-in-law you are. They held me responsible. Mom, Dad, don't blame her. The decision was mutual between us. Besides, let us enjoy our honeymoon period alone. At first, Cooper stood up for me like that, but they didn't easily back down. They persistently complained and continued to talk badly about me. At some point, Cooper got tired of it too, and stopped defending me. Even when they said hurtful things about me, he pretended not to hear. Every time I saw them, I felt nothing but unpleasant. Then I gave birth a year after we got married. It was a baby girl, and my in-laws, again, heavily blamed me for not having the male heir. Why didn't you have a boy? It's my eldest son's child, you know. If you had any common sense, you'd have a boy. We all know that with natural fertilization we can choose the gender. I was left speechless by their irrational remarks. I couldn't believe they were being so selfish. But Cooper, despite them saying such unreasonable things, didn't stand up for me. I was very much disappointed about it, and after returning home, I complained to him. Hey, why didn't you stand up for me when your parents were being so unreasonable? You're the only one who can stop their rampage. He looked dismayed hearing me say that. Well, maybe you should have just agreed to live with them in the first place. What? Because you refused. They took offense, and that's why you're getting this treatment. It's your own doing. Whoa, how can you say that to me? You were in agreement back then, and you even told them it was our mutual decision. I never thought they'd be so persistent, you know. But it's undoubtedly your fault for continuously making them angry. Why don't you offer to live with them now? No freaking way. Our daughter was just born. Then stop complaining. Just accept whatever they say. Jeez. I was disappointed by his indifferent attitude. It cast doubt over our marriage for the first time. Well, I'd come to regret it in the end, but at that time, Kiara had just been born, and it was difficult to contemplate divorce. From then on, I focused on taking care of Kiara. I had taken maternity leave, so I spent a lot of time with my daughter every day, bonding with her. Her smiles were genuinely adorable and heartwarming. I thought over and over that I would protect her for the rest of my life. I was just so smitten and in awe of her. Cooper also adored and doted on her. "You're so adorable. Don't grow up too fast." He seemed to enjoy playing with her. During that time of bonding with our daughter, our relationship as a couple was not as strained. It felt like we were connecting through her. As she grew and started speaking, she became even cuter. "Mama, Dada." "Oh, that's amazing. You can code us now." We were so over-the-top happy that you could probably call us doting parents. Looking back, this might have been the happiest time. My in-laws had no interest in their granddaughter since she was a girl, so I used childcare as a reason to stay away from them. That way, I avoided unnecessary stress. We went out to different places on weekend and created lots of fun memories. My phone was overloaded with images of Kiara. Just looking back at them filled my heart with love. As she grew, Cooper began to change little by little. The trigger was his job getting busier, and he started coming home late. Right after we got married, he changed jobs and moved to a different company. After a few years, he was promoted to manager and suddenly became very busy. It was a positive development at first. We had Kiara, and having a higher salary made life easier. It made saving for the future education much more manageable, and we didn't have to restrict her financially if she had things she wanted to do. However, the workload turned out to be more intense than we expected, and he always looked exhausted. He took on additional responsibilities and did overtime every day, so his mind and body didn't seem to get a chance to rest. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'll manage." He came home looking drained and had no energy. Plus, he returned too late at night, so he couldn't see Kiara. It was quite tough for him. I wanted to support him as much as I could, but I took over all the household chores and childcare. I also paid attention to what he ate, making sure to include nutritious options. "Is Daddy coming home late again?" "Seems like it. You wanna go ahead and eat?" "Yeah." Kiara was sad that her dad was coming home late. She was getting bummed out about the decreasing opportunities to have dinner together. He was working hard for our sake, so I couldn't blame him. "Daddy's working really hard to make sure you can do all the things you love, you know? The fact that we can eat this dinner right now is all thanks to him. So let's be super nice to Daddy, okay?" "I'm going to write a card to Daddy." She wrote short sentences on a piece of paper and folded it in half, which she expected him to read when he got home. In it, she wrote, "Thank you for working hard, Daddy. I love you." I knew he would probably tear up when he read it. I wrapped up the dinner and placed it on the table with the card. Since he normally didn't return until around midnight, both Kiara and I went to bed before that. The next morning, the card had been collected, and Cooper woke up looking happy. "Did you get the card?" "Yeah, she's such a sweet kid. It lifted my spirits." "Well, glad to hear. Don't push yourself too hard, honey." "Yeah, I know." He said that, but either due to his sense of responsibility or else, he couldn't reduce his overtime, and late nights continued. He looked tired every day, and even when I tried to talk to him, he seemed out of space. He was also working on weekends, which left him exhausted, and he'd spend Sundays sleeping. We couldn't go on family outgoings, but I also couldn't blame him. In the midst of this, something bad happened. He finally collapsed at work. I received a call from the hospital and rushed over. "Oh my God, honey!" "Oh, I'm sorry to freak you out. I pushed myself too hard, it seems." "I mean, this much? Jeez! If something happened to you and you were gone, we couldn't bear it." "Sorry, but the company finally realized that they put too much pressure on me. They've decided to eliminate overtime from now on. There were other people who got sick or experienced mental breakdowns because of the workload. They decided to make fundamental changes." "That's good news." "Daddy!" "Kiara, I'm sorry for making you worry." Cooper lifted her up to his bed and held her in his arms. She looked happy as he affectionately stroked her back. "From now on, I'll work without overdoing it." "That's a promise." He wasn't suffering from an illness, and it was simply due to exhaustion. After a few days of observation, including test and treatment, he was said to be discharged. I felt relief upon hearing that. Over the next few days, I took some time off to take care of him in the hospital. "Honey, you don't need to come here every day." "No way! I'm too worried. Here's a change of clothes. I'll put the pudding in the fridge, okay?" "Oh, thanks." "When you're discharged, let's go out for some good food." "Yeah, sounds good." We were enjoying our conversation when my in-laws arrived. "Cooper, oh God, are you okay? We heard you collapse from overwork." "Oh, Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for making you worry." They immediately turned to glare at me. "You, Paige, how can you drive him to the point of collapsing from overwork?" "Excuse me?" "You forced him to work so hard and even made him to do housework, didn't you? You're a terrible woman." I was taken aback by their sudden accusation. "Hey, both of you, don't jump to conclusions. I collapsed because my company was giving me too many responsibilities. She was actually worried about me." "Even if that's the case, we don't want her around when we are here." I had no choice but to obey. "All right, I'm leaving then." "Good riddance." I was extremely upset, but they were still his parents, and I had to step back. I didn't want to have a fight in the hospital anyway. I reduced my frequency of visiting since he'd be discharged soon, and his parents were visiting frequently. About a week later, he came back home. "Welcome back, Daddy." "Oh, I missed you, Kiara." "Welcome home." "Thanks for everything, honey." We were thrilled to have him back, and celebrated the occasion by going out to a restaurant. It had been a while since the three of us had dinner together, and Kiara was beaming with smiles. Afterward, Cooper was able to finish work on time and return home early. Kiara was delighted that he could have dinner with her. She enthusiastically talked about her daily school experiences. Watching her face brighten up, I was filled with happiness. It was wonderful to spend time as a family at last. After a while, Cooper started to come home late again. Although not as late as before, but often around 10 p.m. He also had to work on weekends more often, which made me worry. "Hey, honey, are you okay? Is your workload increasing again?" "Oh, I'm fine. It's not as bad as before, and I'm not as tired as you might think. Alright, if you say so. The opportunities to have dinner together decreased again, which made Kiara sad. Then, when her birthday arrived, a problem arose. Will Daddy come home early today? Of course he will. You guys make the promise this morning, right? So let's prepare a feast and wait for him. Okay. I left work early to get ready. I bought a cake and made all of her favorite dishes, so everything was perfect. We eagerly awaited his return, but he didn't show up even after 8 p.m. Is Daddy coming back soon? Yeah, I'm sure he's already nearby. I sent multiple messages, but they remained unread. I was getting worried. By the time I noticed, it was past 9 p.m. The food was getting cold. Kiara's face grew more and more gloomy. Unable to hold back my frustration, I called him incessantly. I was determined to get through to him. He finally answered after several tries. At last! Aren't you done with work yet? You know it's Kiara's birthday today, right? Yeah, sorry. I heard a lot of commotion in the background. It was definitely not his workplace. I could hear music and chattering. Hey, where are you? Obviously, I'm at work. That's a lie. What's all that noise in the background? You're definitely not in the office. I knew something was amiss, but I never expected to hear what he said next. I'm on a trip with my folks right now. What? We had planned this a while ago. Hold on. How come you're telling me this now? It's our daughter's birthday, you know. You're supposed to be celebrating with her tonight. You made a promise, right? You said this morning that you'd come home early, didn't you? But being a good son is more important, you know. What the? Anyway, it's all your fault. I'm stuck in the middle because you can't get along with my parents, and I have to choose between you. Oh, I see. In that case, I will do what I want to. His outburst shattered something within me. I hung up the phone and got to work immediately. Then, something I never expected came to light. Fueled by anger, I decided to bring Judgment Day upon him. Hey, sweetie, it looks like Daddy can come home soon. We'll have a birthday party with just 2 of us, okay? I started reheating the food. She was almost to tears, but she must have sensed something from me. Instead of crying, she quietly went along with me. After that, I called my father. He introduced me to his trusted real estate agent, and we quickly put the apartment on the market. Kiara and I moved our belongings to another property owned by my father, and Cooper's stuff was sent to his parents. By acting swiftly, I managed to complete the move in no time. A few days later, Cooper called me frantically. What's up, Cooper? Hey, what happened here? He sounded freaked out. Why isn't my key working? Because that apartment's on sale now. On sale? What the heck are you doing? Well, you missed Kira's birthday. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But is that enough reason to take such drastic action? You're right. I'm not doing it just because of that. What's really pissing me off is that you told so many lies. You lied about taking a trip with your parents, right? What are you talking about? I did go with them. You know, I called your mom after I spoke to you. Oh, I wanted to give her a piece of my mind. But she said she hadn't left anywhere and was still at home. At first, I thought she was lying, but when I explained the situation, she came over. That's when I found out you used them to make up a lie. So, Who did you go on the trip with? Well, I'm sorry. I was cheating. I knew it. You chose the trip with your mistress over your own daughter's birthday. It was planned a while ago. I didn't realize that it clashed with her birthday until recently. I didn't know what to do. You're the worst father. You think it's obvious which one should take priority, right? Anyway, we're getting a divorce. No. Of course, yes. Does it mean I won't be able to see Kira anymore? That's up to you. Reflect on the fact that what you did was terrible, and let's handle the rest through lawyers. I hung up on him. Afterward, he went back to his parents' house, where he received a severe scolding from them and was subsequently kicked out. I then filed a divorce through a lawyer and requested alimony and child support. I managed to claim $60,000 just for alimony. As it turns out, his mistress was a nurse at the hospital where he stayed. They had continued their affair after he was discharged. I submitted a bad review, advising people to be aware that there was a husband-snatching nurse working there. It attracted a lot of attention, and the hospital HR eventually contacted me to investigate. Subsequently, she was let go. She and Cooper broke up, and he now lives a solitary and financially strained life, working hard to pay off the alimony and child support. After all, it's all his own doing. Let him suffer, for all I care. On the other hand, I decided to move in with my parents until Kiara was a little older. I'm working diligently so that even as a single-parent household, we won't be pitied by others. I'm going to cherish my daughter and lead a fulfilling life from now on.
I heard a familiar voice at the restaurant we were at for my daughter's birthday. That voice and the way of speaking were undoubtedly my husband's, who was supposed to be on a business trip.
Sorry, I thought I had made a reservation at that fancy restaurant. I messed up big time.
Don't worry about it. I'm happy anywhere as long as I'm with you.
Thanks. You are so sweet. God, I love you.
Their conversation sounded like something out of a lovey-dovey couple. There was no doubt. It was his affair in progress. Unaware of my presence, he continued professing his love.
My previous wife passed away, you know. I was able to recover because of you.
Holding the hand of his girlfriend, he earnestly spoke to her.
Marry me. Let's be happy together.
At that moment, my anger reached its peak. Previous wife? She passed away? What the heck is he talking about? Your wife is right here. Overtime and working on weekends were all lies. Proposing to his girlfriend on our daughter's birthday is just unforgivable. My husband, who had been betraying us, would face reckoning the next day. My name is Nala. I'm a working wife in my 6th year of marriage. After graduating from college, I focused on my career at my major bank. And before I knew it, I was in my late 20s without a boyfriend. Freaking out, I joined a local singles party with my friends. And that's where I met the man who would become my husband. Kai was easygoing and had a positive impression. I was over the moon when he asked me out. After a year of going out, he popped the question.
Babe, I will make you the happiest wife, so marry me.
Oh my God, yes! I love you so much! And so, we got engaged. After that, we went to announce the news to my parents, who were as happy as us. Then, it was his family's turn. But his mother had already passed away, so there was only his father. As we headed to Dave's place, Kyle mentioned something about him for the first time.
I have to admit, I'm not very comfortable around him.
Oh, why?
He's pretty stern, and he used to give me a hard time when I was younger.
I see. I had no idea. He sounded nervous, so I tensed up a little as we approached the house. Contrary to my imagination, Dave gave me a warm welcome. While he seemed tough, he treated me with courtesy.
Nala, he can be a handful sometimes, but please take care of him.
Don't worry, Dave. I'm used to it by now, haha.
Kyle, you are starting a family now. Take responsibility and be a good husband to her. I know that.
And so, our first introduction to the in-laws ended. Afterward, we got married, moved into our new apartment, and began our newlywed life. Right after we started living together, I realized that he couldn't do any housework. Well, he used to live alone, so it was more like he had no intention of doing it. Dirty laundry would be all over the floor, and he wouldn't even bother to clear the dishes after eating. I asked him to help with the housework once, but he simply dismissed it.
Isn't that the wife's job when you get married? Are you seriously asking me to do it?
I was totally stunned and couldn't say anything back to him. Since then, no matter how much I complained, he never improved his attitude. About 2 years into this kind of life, I found out I was pregnant. He was overjoyed and looked forward to discovering whether it was a boy or girl. My parents were thrilled to hear the news too, and Dave said,
Take it easy on yourself from now on, and have a healthy baby.
Our child was blessed by everyone, which made me happier than anything. However, when my morning sickness kicked in, Kyle still didn't show any sign of helping me with housework. I was so frustrated, but I had to push myself to do the chores, no matter how unwell I felt. When I was 8 months pregnant, he surprised me with a sudden statement.
Hey, hon, I'm thinking about taking paternity leave.
Huh? Really?
Yeah, you know my company is Scandinavian, and a lot of my colleagues are from there. I see them taking leave and being involved in caring for their newborns. It's pretty cool.
As you may know, Scandinavia is one of the most advanced regions when it comes to the family support system. Learning that he was aiming to become an involved dad made me happy. Thanks, love. It means a lot to me. I was feeling overwhelmed. It would be great if you could help with babysitting and housework.
Leave them to me.
I believed that he would change his way once our baby arrived. I was still hopeful back then. Later, I gave birth to a healthy girl named Emma. Kyle took 3 months of paternity leave, which was scheduled to start at the same time as the baby was born. However, he still didn't do anything contrary to my expectations. He would hold Emma and coo on her, but as soon as her diaper was wet or she started crying from hunger, he would hand her over to me. Her diaper must be wet and uncomfortable. Change it for her.
No way. I don't want to do something so nasty.
Fine. At least vacuum then.
Seriously? I don't know how to do it, so better you do it.
He didn't make any effort to learn how to take care of our baby, let alone help with housework. I was exhausted after giving birth and sleep deprived from the crying baby throughout the night. While I was busy doing everything, he was just lounging at home, playing with his phone. Sometimes he would go out somewhere, eat out alone, or shop, and then return. I was getting upset, wondering what he was on paternity leave for in the first place. I even thought about talking to his dad about it, but I decided to hold my tongue to avoid unnecessary conflict. Emma grew rapidly, and Kyle returned to work after the paternity leave. I took a year off from work, and planned to put her in daycare when I started working again. Time passed, and Emma turned 3. We might have appeared to be a happy family at first glance, but my frustrations had been building up for the past few years. Kyle, as usual, wouldn't lift a finger when it came to housework and childcare. Moreover, for the past 6 months or so, he'd become increasingly busy with work, often working late on weekdays. He even claimed to have to go in on weekends, which was supposed to be the only time he could spend with Emma. Since I had been handling everything related to her, she had naturally become attached to me. Still, I thought I had to support Kyle, because he was busy with work, so I somehow managed things day by day. As Emma's 4th birthday approached, I brought up an idea when he came home late one night. "Hey honey, I want to talk to you about something."
What? I'm tired, you know.
He replied with a hint of annoyance, but I continued with a serious expression. "Emma's birthday is next Wednesday. I really want us to celebrate as a family, so can you try to come home early?"
No way. I'm swamped with work right now. Anyway, I've got a business trip that day.
"Oh, come on. You've been spending no time with her for a while now. She misses you."
Yeah, right. She's always glued to you, calling for her mommy.
"That's because you..." Before I could raise my voice, he interrupted, looking annoyed.
Let's drop it. I don't want to argue about this anymore.
He headed off to take a shower. Left behind, I was utterly shocked. Then, Emma's birthday arrived. Kyle had gone on a business trip early in the morning. When I asked Emma what she wanted to eat for her birthday, she energetically replied, "Kids meal!" She loved it at the nearby chain restaurant. I agreed to her request, and after picking her up from daycare, we headed there. However, it was closed for renovation. Well, we have no choice. Let's go to a different location. And so, we ended up going to another one a bit farther away. The place was crowded, and we had to wait for about 20 minutes before being seated. "I'm really hungry." "You can eat as much as you want. We'll get some cake too." While having a conversation, I looked up, and my heart leaped out of my chest. The man sitting diagonally across with his back to us looked just like Kyle. Emma's meal was brought to her, and a pasta dish was placed in front of me. I stealthily observed the other table. Then, I overheard their conversation.
I'm sorry, Monica. I made a reservation at the fancy restaurant, but I messed up the date. And now we're here.
The voice and the way of speaking were undoubtedly Kyle, who was supposed to be on a business trip. Then a woman, referred to as Monica, said, "Don't worry about it. I'm happy anywhere as long as I'm with you."
Thanks. You are so sweet.
I was sure it was a scene of his affair. I operated my phone nervously and pressed the record button. His voice was being recorded on the phone.
I had planned to have this conversation in a proper restaurant, but...
What is it?
As you know, my previous wife passed away. I was able to recover because of you.
Oh, baby. Holding her hands, he said with a serious tone.
So Monica Reed, marry me. Let's be happy together.
Her eyes welled up as she responded. Kyle, let's be happy together for your previous wife's sake too. At that moment, my anger reached its peak. Previous wife? She passed away? What the heck is he talking about? Your wife is right here. Overtime and working on weekends were all lies. Proposing to his girlfriend on our daughter's birthday is just unforgivable. Mommy, what's wrong? You look scary. Emma's voice made me snap out of it. Oh, it's nothing. Here, have some cake. I looked up again, but they had already left the restaurant. After celebrating her birthday with a forced smile, we returned home, and I took action immediately. The next day, after finishing work, I waited for Kyle to return home. The door swung open, and he casually said,
"I'm home."
I stood in the hallway and immediately started acting on my plan. "Welcome back. I went to the trouble coming back from my grave for you."
Huh?
He looked perplexed.
Grave? What are you talking about?
"Well, you said I passed away, right?"
What?
He still didn't seem to get it, so I played back the recording from the previous day.
My previous wife passed away. I was able to recover because of you. So Monica Reed, marry me. Let's be happy together.
I had edited the recording to be loud and clear. His voice echoed through the hallway. At that moment, his face turned pale.
What the heck is this? Were you in that restaurant yesterday?
Obviously, that's where I heard you saying this.
God damn it. This is an invasion of privacy.
Proposing boldly in a public place, and now you're talking about privacy? But wait, what's the deal? I'm supposed to have passed away without knowing it.
That's...
I sighed as he stammered. You know, divorce is inevitable after this. I'm going to claim alimony from you, so be prepared.
Divorce? Alimony? Hold on.
Do you have a problem with that? I grimaced, and he blurted out with a red face.
It was just a joke.
A joke?
Right. There's nothing going on between me and her. You can't just come after me for alimony without evidence.
Then, a couple of figures appeared from the living room.
What? Monica? What are you doing here? And Dad too?
Monica was glaring at him with an intense expression, and Dave was standing with his arms crossed, showing his anger. After I got home from the restaurant, I searched for Monica Reed on social media and contacted her, revealing everything. Judging from their conversation, I had thought she didn't know the truth. I was right. She was terribly shaken and apologized to me. I accepted her apology and asked her to help me. I also explained the situation to Dave, who rushed over. I left Emma with one of my mommy friends and ambushed Kyle with them.
Jeez, Monica,
he mutters as if in a daze. Then she started screaming at him. You said you were lonely because your wife passed away, right? She's still alive. And there's even a child. What's up with that?
That's...
You proposed shamelessly even though you're already married. I was a fool to accept this garbage. She threw the ring box at him. It hit him square in the face, and he crouched down in pain.
Ouch! What the heck are you doing?
I'm going to sue you for marriage fraud. I'm coming after you for tons of money, so you better not run. She huffed and puffed. Kai was still crouching and stared her up in bewilderment. The next to speak was Dave.
You are really a fool. You betrayed Nala and Emma, and on top of that, you deceived a young woman. You're an absolute idiot who was straight from the past. It's empathetic as it gets.
He then approached Kyle and delivered a powerful slap. There was a sharp sound, and Kyle groaned. He writhed in pain, clutching his face, but not uttering a word. I watched him with a cold gaze.
Come on, get up. First, apologize to Nala.
Dave's face was contorted in anger, and he pulled him up. Tears welled up in Kyle's eyes as he began to apologize.
I'm so sorry, Nala. Please forgive me. Please say you forgive me. Otherwise, my old man's going to... I don't even want to think about it.
He trembled and hung his head down, and I gave him a tongue lashing. Who would forgive you? I don't want a husband who doesn't do any housework or childcare, and on top of that, cheats without a care in the world. We're definitely getting divorced, even if I have to fight in court. I will make sure I get custody and alimony. Oh no. He looked dazed while Dave grabbed him by the scruff of his neck and dragged him out of the house. Then Monica took my hand and apologized again. I too said, I apologize for my husband's behavior. Later, my divorce with Kyle was finalized, and I gained custody of Emma. I claimed $130,000 in lump sum as alimony for his infidelity and child support. Apparently, Monica also managed to get some compensation from him. Of course, he couldn't afford such a large sum, so Dave lent him the money and paid it all. He was furious about the whole incident and made Kyle quit his job. He arranged for him to work at an acquaintance's forestry company. Kyle is currently deep in the woods, cutting trees and repaying the debt to Dave. He's never done manual labor before and is put to hard work under a younger boss. He's said to be toiling away in utter desperation. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. On the other hand, I used the alimony to move and start a new life with Emma. I was worried that she might miss her dad, but she's been smiling and said, as long as Mommy is with me, it's okay. I make sure she sees Dave regularly, and he showers her some gifts every time. I'm looking forward to watching her grow and living life with a positive attitude.
I heard a familiar voice at the restaurant we were at for our daughter's birthday. That voice and the way of speaking were undoubtedly my husband's, who was supposed to be on a business trip. Sorry, I thought I had made a reservation at a fancy restaurant. I messed up big time.
Don't worry about it. I'm happy anywhere as long as I'm with you.
Thanks, you're so sweet. God, I love you. Their conversation sounded like something out of Lovey-Dovey Couple. There was no doubt it was his affair in progress. Unaware of my presence, he continued processing his love. My precious wife passed away, you know. I was able to recover because of you. Holding the hand of his girlfriend, he earnestly spoke to her. Marry me. Let's be happy together. At that moment, my anger reached its peak. Precious wife? She passed away? What the heck is he talking about? Your wife is right here. Overtime and working on weekends were all lies. Proposing to his girlfriend on our daughter's birthday is just unforgivable. My husband, who had been betraying us, would face reckoning the next day. My name is Nala. I'm a working wife in my 6th year of marriage. After graduating from college, I focused on my career at a major bank, and before I knew it, I was in my late 20s without a boyfriend. Freaking out, I joined the local singles party with my friends, and that's where I met the man who would become my husband. Kyle was easygoing and had a positive impression. I was over the moon when he asked me out. After a year of going out, he popped a question. Babe, I'll make you the happiest wife. So, marry me. Oh my God! Yes! I love you so much! And so, we got engaged. After that, we went to announce the news to my parents, who were as happy as us. Then it was his family's turn, but his mother had already passed away, so there was only his father. As we headed to Dave's place, Kyle mentioned something about him for the first time. I have to admit, I'm not very comfortable around him. Oh, why? He's pretty stern and used to give me a hard time when I was younger. I see. I had no idea. He sounded nervous, so I tensed up a little as we approached the house. Contrary to my imagination, Dave gave me a warm welcome. While he seemed tough, he treated me with courtesy. Nala, he can be a handful sometimes, but please take care of him. Don't worry, Dave. I'm used to it by now. Kyle, you're starting a family now. Take responsibility and be a good husband to her. I know, Dad. And so, our first introduction to the in-laws ended. Afterward, we got married, moved into a new apartment, and began our newlywed life. Right after we started living together, I realized that he couldn't do any housework. Well, he used to live alone, so it was more like he had no intention of doing it. Dirty laundry would be all over the floor, and he wouldn't even bother to clear the dishes after eating. I asked him to help with housework once, but he simply dismissed it. Isn't that a wife's job when you get married? Are you serious asking me to do it? I was totally stunned and couldn't say anything back to him. Since then, no matter how much I complained, he never improved his attitude. About 2 years into this kind of life, I found out I was pregnant. He was overjoyed and looked forward to discovering whether it was a boy or a girl. My parents were thrilled to hear the news too, and Dave said, "Take it easy on yourself from now and have a healthy baby." Our child was blessed by everyone, which made me happier than anything. However, when my morning sickness kicked in, Kyle still didn't show any sign of helping me with housework. I was so frustrated, but I had to push myself to do the chores no matter how unwell I felt. When I was 8 months pregnant, he surprised me with a sudden statement. Hey hon, I'm thinking about taking paternity leave. Huh? Really? Yeah, you know, my company is Scandinavian, and a lot of my colleagues are from there. I see them taking leave and being involved in the caring of their newborns. It's pretty cool. As you may know, Scandinavia is one of the most advanced regions when it comes to the family support system. Learning that he was aiming to become an involved dad made me happy. Thanks, love. It means a lot to me. I was feeling overwhelmed. It'd be great if you could help with babysitting and housework. Leave them to me. I believed that he would change his way once our baby arrived. I was still hopeful back then. Later, I gave birth to a healthy girl named Emma. Kyle took 3 months of paternity leave, which was scheduled to start at the same time as the baby was born. However, he still didn't do anything contrary to my expectations. He would hold Emma and coo on her, but as soon as her diaper was wet or she started crying from hunger, he'd hand her over to me. Her diaper must be wet and uncomfortable. Chant it for her. No way, I don't want to do something so nasty. Fine, at least vacuum then. Ugh, seriously? I don't know how to do it. So better you do it. He didn't make any effort to learn how to take care of our baby, let alone help with housework. I was exhausted after giving birth and sleep deprived from the crying baby throughout the night. While I was busy doing everything, he was just lounging at home, playing with his phone. Sometimes he'd go out somewhere, eat out alone or shop, then return. I was getting upset, wondering what he was on paternity leave for in the first place. I even thought about talking to his dad about it, but I decided to hold my tongue to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Emma grew rapidly, and Kyle returned to work after the paternity leave. I took a year off from work and planned to put her in daycare when I started working again. Time passed, and Emma turned 3. We might have appeared to be a happy family at first glance, but my frustration had been building up for the past few years. Kyle, as usual, wouldn't lift a finger when it came to housework and childcare. Moreover, for the past 6 months or so, he'd become increasingly busy with work, often working late on weekdays. He even claimed to have to go in on weekends, which was supposed to be the only time he could spend time with Emma. Since I had been handling everything related to her, she had naturally become attached to me. Still, I thought I had to support Kyle because he was busy with work, so I somehow managed things day by day. As Emma's 4th birthday approached, I brought up an idea when he came home late one night. "Hey honey, I want to talk to you about something." "What?" "I'm tired, you know." He replied with a hint of annoyance, but I continued with a serious expression. "Emma's birthday is next Wednesday. I really want us to celebrate as a family, so can you try to come home early?" "No way! I'm swamped with work right now. Anyway, I've got a business trip that day." "Oh, come on. You've been spending no time with her for a while now. She misses you." "Yeah, right. She's always glued to you, calling for her mummy." "That's because you—" Before I could raise my voice, he interrupted, looking annoyed. "Let's drop it. I don't want to argue about it anymore." He headed off to take a shower. Left behind, I was utterly shocked. Then Emma's birthday arrived. Kyle had gone on a business trip early in the morning. When I asked Emma what she wanted to eat for her birthday, she energetically replied, "Kids' meal." She loved it at a nearby chain restaurant. I agreed to her request, and after picking her up from daycare, we headed there. However, it was closed for renovation. "Well, we have no choice. Let's go to a different location." And so, we ended up going to another one a bit farther away. The place was crowded, and we had to wait for about 20 minutes before being seated. "I'm really hungry." "You can eat as much as you want. We'll get some cake too." While having a conversation, I looked up, and my heart leaped out of my chest. The man sitting diagonally across with his back to us looked just like Kyle. Emma's meal was brought to her, and a pasta dish was placed in front of me. I stealthily observed the other table. Then I overheard their conversation. "I'm sorry, Monica. I made a reservation at a fancy restaurant, but I messed up the date, and now we're here." The voice and the way of speaking were undoubtedly Kyle, who was supposed to be on the business trip. Referred to as Monica, said, "Don't worry about it. I'm happy anywhere as long as I'm with you." "Thanks, you're so sweet." I was sure it was the scene of his affair. I operated my phone nervously and passed the record button. His voice was being recorded on the phone. "I had planned to have this conversation in the proper restaurant, but—" "What is it?" "As you know, my previous wife passed away. I was able to recover because of you." "Oh, baby." Holding her hands, he said with a serious tone, "So, Monica Reed, marry me. Let's be happy together." Her eyes welled up as she responded, "Kyle, let's be happy together, for your previous wife's sake too." At that moment, My anger reached its peak. Previous wife? She passed away? What the heck is he talking about? Your wife is right here. Overtime and working on weekends were all lies. Proposing to his girlfriend on our daughter's birthday is just unforgivable.
Mommy, what's wrong? You look scary.
Emma's voice made me snap out of it. It's nothing. Here, have some cake. I looked up again, but they had already left the restaurant. After celebrating her birthday with a forced smile, we returned home, and I took action immediately. The next day, after finishing work, I waited for Kyle to return home. The doors went open, and he casually said, "I'm home." I stood in the hallway and immediately started acting on my plan. Welcome back. I went to the trouble of coming back from my grave for you. Huh? He looked perplexed. Grave? What are you talking about? Well, you said I passed away, right? What? He still didn't seem to get it, so I played back the recording from the previous day. My previous wife passed away. I was able to recover because of you. So Monica Reed, marry me. Let's be happy together. I had edited the recording to be loud and clear. His voice echoed through the hallway. At that moment, his face turned pale. What the heck is this? Were you in that restaurant yesterday? Obviously. That's where I heard you saying this. God damn it. This is an invasion of privacy. Proposing boldly in the public place, and now you're talking about privacy? But wait, what's the deal? I'm supposed to have passed away without knowing it? That's... I sighed as he stammered. You know, divorce is inevitable after this. I'm going to claim alimony from you, so be prepared. Divorce? Alimony? Hold on. Do you have a problem with that? I grimaced, and he blurted out with a red face. It was just a joke. A joke? Right, there's nothing going on between me and her. You can't just come after me for alimony without evidence. Then, a couple figures appeared from the living room. What? Monica? What are you doing here? And Dad too? Monica was glaring at him with an intense expression, and Dave was standing with his arms crossed, showing his anger. After I got home from the restaurant, I searched for Monica Reed on social media and contacted her, revealing everything. Judging from the conversation, I had thought she didn't know the truth. I was right. She was terribly shaken and apologized to me. I accepted her apology and asked her to help me. I also explained the situation to Dave, who rushed over. I left Emma with one of my mommy friends and ambushed Kyle with them. Jeez, Monica, he muttered as if in a daze. Then she started screaming at him. You said you were lonely because your wife passed away, right? And she's still alive. And there's even a child? What's up with that? That's... You proposed shamelessly even though you're already married. I was a fool to accept this garbage. She threw the ring box at him. It hit him square in the face, and he crouched down in pain. Ouch! What the heck are you doing? I'm going to sue you for marriage fraud. I'm coming after you for tons of money, so you better not run. She huffed and puffed. Kyle was still crouching and stared her up in bewilderment. The next to speak was Dave. You're really a fool. You betrayed Nala and Emma, And on top of that, you deceived a young woman. You're an absolute idiot who has strayed from the path. It's as pathetic as it gets. He then approached Kyle and delivered a powerful slap. There was a sharp sound, and Kyle groaned. He writhed in pain, clutching his face but not uttering a word. I watched him with a cold gaze. Come on, get up. First, apologize to Nala. Dave's face was contorted in anger as he pulled him up. Tears welled up in Kyle's eyes as he began to apologize. I'm so sorry, Nala. Please, forgive me. Please say you forgive me. Otherwise, my old man's going to... I don't even want to think about it. He trembled and hung his head down, and I gave him a tongue lashing. Who would forgive you? I don't want a husband who doesn't do any housework or child care, and on top of that, cheats without a care in the world. We're definitely getting divorced, even if I have to fight in court. I'll make sure I get custody and alimony. Oh no. He looked dazed while Dave grabbed him by his scruffy neck and dragged him out of the house. Then Monica took my hand and apologized again. I too said I apologized for my husband's behavior. Later, my divorce with Kyle was finalized, and I gained custody of Emma. I claimed $130,000 in lump sum as alimony for his infidelity and child support. Apparently, Monica also managed to get some compensation from him. Of course, he couldn't afford such a large sum, so Dave lent him the money and paid it all. He was furious about the whole incident and made Kyle quit his job. He arranged for him to work at the acquaintance's forestry company. Kyle's currently deep in the woods, cutting trees and repaying the debt to Dave. He's never done manual labor before and is put to hard work under a younger boss. He's said to be toiling away under desperation. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. On the other hand, I used the alimony to move and start a new life with Emma. I was worried that she might miss her dad, but she's been smiling and said, "As long as Mommy's with me, it's okay." I make sure she sees Dave regularly, and he showers her with some gifts every time. I'm looking forward to watching her grow and living life with a positive attitude. I'm gonna divorce you. Give the apartment to my sister and get out right now. My emotional husband screamed over the phone. I replied calmly and coldly. I already moved out. My name is Gina. I'm a 35-year-old consultant. I've been married to Dean for 3 years now. We met through work. We were both handling business for our respective companies. He was dedicated to his job, and I thought he was an honest person, which was what originally attracted me to him. It seemed like he was interested in me too, and we gradually grew closer and started going out. Everything went smoothly, and he popped the question. I thought I could have a happy married life with him. At first, it was really great. Our newlywed life was exciting, and we enjoyed our time as a couple. But there was one problem that bothered me: his mother. Whenever I saw Shirley, she asked when we were having a baby. I initially thought it was just a simple inquiry, but I got tired of hearing it every time we visited her. Besides that, she constantly pushed household chores on me, saying that I was her daughter-in-law and should have helped around the house. She made me sweep, wipe, do laundry, and even cook. I couldn't understand why I had to be bossed around like that. To make things worse, Dim told me to obey her. One day, after a series of such incidents, I complained to him. "Why do I have to take orders from your mom?" He responded with annoyance. "Just cut it out. I don't want to hear it from you either." "What do you mean by either?" "I get asked about grandchildren, and she says you haven't been educated well enough as a wife. Besides, she's the one who covered the wedding expenses, you know. You should listen to her, okay?" "What are you talking about? It's the first time I heard about this." When we got married, he had told me he'd covered the wedding and had paid about $20,000. I was impressed and thought he was a responsible person to have such savings. But it turned out he had just taken the money from his mother. I was completely disillusioned. "You should have been honest from the beginning." "Sorry, but I was worried that if I mentioned it, you might dislike me." I found his behavior dishonest and questioned his character. "We owe her a lot, so please be nice to her." He begged me to understand. I realized that if she had indeed paid for our beautiful wedding, I should be thankful. By the way, my father-in-law had already passed away, and she was living alone. She paid a significant amount of money for us, so I felt grateful. When I visited her after that, I thanked and apologized to her. "Listen, Shirley, I didn't know you covered the wedding expenses. I'm sorry for not expressing my gratitude earlier. Thank you so much." She wore a smug expression on her face and responded, "I couldn't help but think how incredibly rude you are." "Oh, I'm sorry." "If you're really feeling remorseful, then get to work on the chores." "Sure." I sighed, resigned to the fact. Her house was much bigger than ours, so the chores were incredibly taxing. To make matters worse, Dim wanted to visit her about 3 times a month. "It's not nice to leave my mom all alone, you know? We should go and check on her." I started to feel like there was no need for me to accompany him every time. When I brought this up to him, he was adamant that we go together. "It showed that we're a close couple. She can interact with me while you help her with the chores. We can divide our task efficiently, so it's better for both of us to go together." Seriously, it made no sense to me. I thought he should take up on the chores then. However, he seemed convinced that he was right and didn't consider my perspective. As a result, I found myself in an unpleasant situation a few times every month. "Oh boy, Gina, you're really not good at cooking. I wonder how you manage to make everything taste so terrible." "Well, everything tastes bad compared to your cooking." "Oh, Dean, you always say such nice things. I'll cook next time then." I was relieved that she'd take over the cooking, thinking it lessened my burden on our next visit. However, her cooking was incredibly salty and unpalatable. It was evident that she used seasoning heavily, and even a small bite was enough to make me lose my appetite. Nevertheless, Dim happily exclaimed, "See, your cooking is the best." "Oh, Dean, you really get it. Gina's food doesn't have any flavor at all." I thought, no way. It's just that your cooking tastes like nothing but salt and herbs. They completely overpower the natural flavors of the ingredients. She looked at me with a satisfied expression and asked, "So, how is it? delicious, right? Yes. I forced myself to finish the plate, but I felt incredibly nauseous afterward. I told myself to cook from next time, but then I thought I'd rather not have a next time. It didn't make sense for me to accompany Dean. So, I came up with a plan the next time he wanted to visit her. Oh no, I seem to be running a fever.
Really?
Yeah, it's 100.6 degree Fahrenheit. But Shirley wants us to come together, right? Don't blame me if I pass it to her. Upon hearing this, Dean became flustered.
No, you don't have to come. I'll go alone. You stay home today and get a rest.
I internally celebrated the success of my plan with a triumphant cheer. It had been a while since I had quality time to myself, and I could finally relax and recharge. Dean decided to spend the night at Shirley's place, giving me even more free time. That made me realize how much I needed to have some time to myself. So, I started using the same strategy every 2 or 3 times. But if you overuse the sick day, it was bound to raise suspicions.
Do you really have a fever?
Well, the thermometer says so.
Then measure it again right now.
I hesitated, thinking my scheme would be finally discovered. While measuring my temperature, I slightly rubbed the thermometer to make it read high, but if I had to take it in front of him, I couldn't do that.
See, it's 96 degree Fahrenheit. It's not a fever, but it's even on the lower side. Have you been deceiving me all this time? Lying to your partner? That's just not cool.
You were the one who lied to me first, you know.
What did you say?
Remember when you tried to look cool and claimed you paid for the wedding? You're not different.
God damn it! Stop bringing up old stuff like that. Anyway, we're going to Mom's. You better apologize to her.
Yeah, right. I'm not going anymore.
Don't be so selfish. Don't act like the world revolves around you.
You're no exception to what was said, you know. Don't assume that I should always obey you in everything. Anyway, I won't be visiting your mom so often. If you're concerned about her, go on your own.
Never mind then.
He seemed taken aback that I was standing my ground, and eventually gave up for the day, leaving on his own. If we had to fight like that every time, it'd take a toll on me emotionally. I wonder if there was a better solution. I couldn't figure it out on my own, so I went to consult with my parents. Oh dear, so that's what's been going on.
That sounds a bit selfish of him.
Yeah, no matter what I said, he always prioritizes his mother. Even when I don't want to go, he forces me. I've been thinking about separating for a bit. When I explained the situation, they came up with a suggestion. How about living in one of the apartments we own? Really? Is that okay? I knew they invested in real estate. They earned quite a bit from rental income. Plus, my dad had a well-paying job at a large corporation, so they had substantial funds for investment and owned several properties. They offered to let me use one of them.
It became vacant recently. We were in the process of finding a new tenant. You can use it as a second home.
Whoa, thanks. I immediately moved the essentials to the new apartment. I bought some appliances like a fridge and a microwave and some low-cost furniture. I had been so frustrated with Dean that I decided to live separately for the time being. While he was at Shirley's place, I left a note saying, I won't be back for a while, and left the house. As expected, he bombarded me with calls, but I ignored them. After about a week, I was shocked to see him waiting in front of the apartment building. Why are you here? You're having an affair, aren't you? What are you talking about? There's no way. Then whose apartment is this? I've been following you and seeing you return here every day after work. You're an only child, and your parents live in the house, right? So the only explanation is that you've been going to some other man's place. I was completely disgusted by his behavior. That's so creepy that you've been following me around. It's your fault for suddenly leaving me. I'm renting this place by myself. It's just me here. Don't try to feed me such an obvious lie. Then why don't you come inside and see yourself? I reluctantly let him into my apartment. There was no evidence of another man living there. He searched the entire place but found nothing. It seemed he finally believed me. Why did you rent this place in the first place? Why don't you ask yourself that question? You should realize how carelessly you've treated me all this time. What? I've been considerate of our life together. What about your mother? You tried to force me to visit her even when I didn't want to. Did you ever consider how stressed I was? She has always been kind to you and tried to teach you how to handle household chores. Kind? It's ridiculous to interpret her behavior as kindness. She's been bullying me. She wouldn't do that. If things haven't changed, then get out. There's nothing more to say to you. I firmly told him to leave. He was shouting, but when the next door neighbor complained about the noise, he hastily left. I was freaking out that he had discovered me, but I couldn't back down. I decided that I wouldn't return until he showed genuine remorse and committed to changing his ways. If things remain the same, we should just get a divorce. Just as I was thinking that, he did something totally unexpected. One weekend, he suddenly showed up at my place again. What's more, he brought his sister with him. What are you doing here, Kathy?
Whoa, this is quite a nice place.
She casually walked in and inspected the place. I told you it would be perfect for you. Dean followed her inside. What's going on? Why did you bring her here? I didn't have a good relationship with her either. We only saw each other during holidays, but she had always been critical for me, often joined Shirley to making my life difficult. So I didn't have a favorable impression of her.
Okay, I'll take it.
What the heck does that mean?
I mean, I'll live here. I'm moving next month, so please take care of things. Oh, and the rent as well.
I was utterly baffled. You moved out of here and live with Mom and me. Are you kidding me? I've decided to move in with Mom. So stop being stubborn. Come home and start packing. I'd had enough. There was no point in being a part of the family with them. I had made up my mind to get a divorce, so I remained silent. They must have assumed I had agreed. They had left with smug expressions. After they were gone, I took immediate action. I explained the situation to my parents and decided to move out. To avoid being followed again, I also asked my office to follow me to work remotely. My parents swiftly handled the situation and found new tenants for the apartment. The location was excellent, and it was a spacious and clean apartment, so they quickly found someone to move in. I then found a new place to live in a different area from where Dean resided. Since I no longer had to go to the office, I didn't need to be in the area where I most likely bumped into him. I completed all the necessary procedures in no time and was able to leave alone safely. Soon enough, Dean called me incessantly. Hey, where are you now? I told you to come back, right? We're supposed to move in with Mom, so hurry up. We still have so much to pack. He angrily shouted. Too bad. I won't be living with you guys. Why should I have to live with someone who bullies me? Then I told him this. He lost his temper. Stop messing around. How selfish can you be? I'll divorce you, you know. Give the apartment to Kathy and get out of there right now. He was worked up and screamed over the phone. I responded calmly and coldly. I've already moved out. I've been living somewhere else. He must have been surprised and calmed down a bit. You should have told me that sooner. I'll let her know. If you already moved out, then stop being stubborn and just come back. You actually miss me, don't you? I was amazed by his optimism. I don't know what you're trying to say, but I'm quite busy right now, so I have to go. Then I ended the call. I intentionally avoided any further contact for a while. After some time, I got a frantic call from him again. Hey, what the heck is going on? Why is there already someone else living in that apartment? Kathleen and I were almost mistaken for trespassers, and the police almost got involved. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. I wished I could have witnessed the scene. Who told you to let her live there? What? That apartment is owned by my parents. So, as soon as I moved out, they found a new tenant and signed a contract. No way. So, where's she supposed to live now? Well, she could move in with you guys, right? Don't be ridiculous. I won't let you get away with this once you return. Whatever you say. We're getting a divorce for sure. Huh? I've already made up my mind to serve times with you guys. I won't be living with your mom in a million years. What? Divorce? Are you serious? I'm always serious. It's you guys who are out of your minds. Well then, let's discuss things through lawyers. Then I hung up the phone. Later, I demanded a divorce through a lawyer. I also sought compensation for the emotional distress I had suffered due to the harassment from the three of them. They were completely flabbergasted by the fact that I went after them. At present, they are living together at their family home. Shirley squandered her late husband's inheritance, and Kathy doesn't work or do any housework. All the financial burdens have fallen squarely on Dean, who doesn't have a particularly high income. As a result, they're living a financially strained life. They brought this upon themselves, and it serves them right. On the other hand, I'm comfortably continuing my life, working and enjoying living alone. I plan to increase my savings for a while, discover some hobbies, and continue to build a fulfilling life.